What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a bonus training. Today, we're going to be talking about getting into alignment with your goals, or I should say, your most authentic self. So, if you're someone who craves becoming more empowered, if you want to unlock more potential within yourself, if you want to get aligned with your most authentic self, this is going to be for you today. So, if you have also been dealing with a lot of suffering in your life, if you're noticing that you're stuck in these patterns or this self-sabotage cycle that's just not serving you, this is definitely going to be for you. And if you're also experiencing a lot of resistance behind change in your life, this is also going to be for you today too. So I'm going to cover a few things here today. We're going to go over what is alignment. I'm just going to give a quick example. Then we're going to dive into how manifesting is going to play its role today, the brain, resistance, and then we're going to put it all together. So diving first things first is alignment. Now, the easiest way I can explain to you what alignment is think of it like this. You have a natural pull inside of you of the things that you enjoy most in your life that make you more you, that make you happier, that just feel right. It feels whole and complete to your soul. That is alignment. So when you have a goal, for example, of I want to lose weight, right? And this goal is coming from a place of I want to feel better. It's going to feel good to me. It's not coming from like a punishment or thing. That's alignment. That's that natural pull towards it, right? We all have these dreams, these desires, these things that we think about and that we want. That's alignment. When we get into the right path, when we get aligned with that desire, that's when we know we're in alignment. Okay? Not being in alignment is where we're following kind of what we would call resistance. So let's say we have these blocks that pop up in our lives. Okay. So alignment would be to stay on course. But oftentimes in life, we have fear. Okay. So, for example, of alignment, let's say your natural kid self, all right, you have this dream where you want to, let's say, run a shelter or something. That's a dog shelter. That's your dream, right? That's what you always loved growing up. That's what you've always wanted to do. And then as you get older, you kind of still had this dream, but then society and people around you install fear of like, that's not possible. That's not realistic. You got to play it safe. You got to do all this crap, right? So now this fear starts to build up that wasn't there before. It was never there before, but it comes into your life because it's external. It's coming from something that's not actually rooted in truth. It's coming from programming, society, people, culture, environment, whatever it may be, it's programmed into you. And then this starts to become a part of us, though. We start to identify with this. We start to believe this, right? I can't accomplish this dream of mine to have the shelter for dogs because it's not realistic, right? And we start to, this is what I mean by you'll see this a lot in my content where I say we get caught up in the story when we forget we're the actual author. This is a story we start to play out in our lives, and we allow this fear to knock us off track from that desire, and instead we go into resistance. So we resist what naturally is. We resist against what we actually want. So instead of going this way, we decide to go this way. And that's where we get out of alignment. And I believe that once we get out of alignment, what happens is that this fear and all this other resistance in our lives will keep getting worse and worse and worse. It will pop up like a thorn is stuck in your skin. Your skin's naturally going to push it up to the surface to get it out of there, right? It's a toxin. I don't want that in my body. That I believe is going to happen for the natural self as well. And this is where suffering comes in to play. Okay. We do not allow life and things to flow through us and accept it and to trust and let go. Instead, we hold on, we attach ourselves to things, we get caught up, and then we suffer. Right? Life is a lot like the yin yang. Desire creates suffering, suffering creates desire. So that's what alignment is, just for a quick masterclass on that. Now, what about manifesting and how is manifesting going to play its role? Well, manifesting is basically what woohoo talks about, and I'll explain the science. But manifesting, woohoo would say like, oh, well, whatever you think about will come into uh, creation, right? Reality, and to an extent. But they forgot it is actually your thoughts plus emotion. But you also need to take action as well. Now, how this works is when you look at how manifesting works, it ties into the law of attraction. So we have universal laws. One of the universal laws is law of attraction. It's proven in physics that like attracts like, and how everything in this world is energy, right? 99.99999% of things is all just energy. And then if you look at it, every single thing vibrates. Okay. And then if you take it another step farther, every single thing is set to an attuned frequency. So this is where like attracts like. Okay. So for example, a positive, right, wants to attract a positive. Okay. So I'm going to get deeper and deeper and deeper as we go in this training today. But that's basically the law of attraction. Okay. You attract what it is that you are. Okay, so like attracts like. Everything is energy, everything vibrates, and we attract whatever basically frequency that we are tuned into. Okay, like attracts like. Because if you think about it, if you look at the quantum field, if everything is energy, and in the quantum field, everything is just all potential, right? So we have space and time here in the physical world, but if we stripped all that away, there's no space and time. Anyways, I don't know where I was going with that. That's a conversation for another time. But back to the program. So that's a law of attraction on how that works there. So for manifesting, mind you guys, I don't edit these, right? So we're just going live and going at it like a real live class. So how manifesting works as people, how do we conduct this, right? How do we do this law of attraction, like attracts like? Well, it is from your dominant frequency. And your dominant frequency depends on your most dominant emotional state. Okay, so if you're always in a stressed out state, you're attracting more and more stressful events into your life. Here's another example. Let's say you go buy that red car. Before you never seen the red car before. Now you see it everywhere. It's because you're tapped in, you're tuned in, your focus is on that red car, so you're attracting it more in your life. The red car was always there, but your brain would filter it out because it wasn't important. But now you're focused on it, you're tuned into it. That's why lucky people who believe they're lucky, they seem to just keep getting more lucky in life and more lucky opportunities. But when you look at people who have the opposite, who are always, in bad events, stuff's not working out for them, what do they say? They never say they're a lucky person. They always say, I just have terrible luck. I attract all this bad stuff into my life, right? How is it like that? It's because it's from our most dominant emotional state. Okay, because that is your human frequency. Okay, so that's kind of what you're putting out into the world. That's what you're vibrating on. That's the channel that you're tapped into. When I say channel that you're tapped into, what I mean by that is that, when you watch TV, all the channels are actually playing, right? Channel 100 is playing, channel 90 is playing. But if you're watching channel 90, you can't see channel 100 because you're tapped into channel 90, that frequency. So your dominant emotional state is dependent on your frequency is dependent on your most dominant emotional state. Now, as we know now through neuroscience, what's the coolest thing ever in neuroplasticity is that you can change this. And how you do it is through your consistent thoughts and emotions, because your consistent thoughts and emotions will create that overall identity. Okay. And you take action based off your identity, right? Don't believe me? Look at politics. Either if you stand and you identify as a lefty or on the righty side, you will take action based off that, right? That will kind of influence how you show up and take action in the world. Okay, same thing for if I think that I'm a fit and healthy person, I feel like a fit and healthy person, I feel motivated and excited because I'm fit and healthy, I'm going to want to keep going to the gym. But if I identify as someone who doesn't work out, who is lazy, and I struggle with my weight, then I will filter out going to the gym because that's just not even in alignment with me. It has who I am in that current state, right? So your thoughts plus emotions held over time will help you actually start to rewire your mind, okay? And that can help you change your overall identity in time. And that influences how you take action, which then gives you the results in your life. But we're missing something. We're missing something. How do we get these core thoughts? Because you are not your thoughts, right? Your thoughts are random. So how are these thoughts just kind of coming into your mind and influencing all this in your life? Right? Because did you know that we repeat usually over 80 to 90% of the same thoughts over and over and over again every single day? And the brain cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality. So whatever you think and feel, you are experiencing here and now, even if you are not experiencing it here and now, if you get what I mean. So how this happens is your core beliefs plus fears. Okay, your core beliefs plus fears. Now, let's move over to the next slide. So, this is where you play a role in your creation. Okay, so your core belief slash fears is then creating the constant thoughts that you have about yourself on a daily basis. A thought held for 7 seconds can then create an emotion. We know now that a thought and emotion held over time creates an identity, right? And naturally, based off our emotions over time or based off of our identity, we take action. And those actions get us the results in our lives. Okay? So, for example, let's say my core belief is I am worthy. Okay. Well, what am I going to think? I am deserving, good enough, right? Confident. These are all thoughts I'm going to have. And how's that going to make me feel? Motivated and willing. Willing as I'm willing to take action to go for what I want because I believe that I'm worthy, right? So this is an example. So, and then if I feel that way, well, how am I going to, my actions are going to be completely different, right? I'm going to do the work. I'm going to stay consistent. I'm going to go through the hard times because I believe that I'm worthy and I believe that I'm deserving. So, whatever it is that I want, that I'm aiming towards, right, in my life, I believe I can do it. And this is how it happens. Then I do get the results, right? Then we do get the results. So, it starts with that core belief I am worthy. And then it influences the thoughts and then the feelings and then the actions. And that's what's producing the results in our lives over and over and over again. So let's do it the other way around, though, right? Let's say if there was a disempowering limiting belief, which most of us have, if not every one of us. Um, let's say we have a disempowering belief. Okay, so let's say the belief is a lot of us deal with this one, not good enough. So let's say you grew up not good enough. Okay, that's the core belief. So that's the belief. Well, what do you think you would think about yourself? If you truly believed you're not good enough, what would you have to be thinking to believe that? That I suck, right? Others are better. I can't do this. I can't lose weight. I can't succeed at this goal. I can't date that person, whatever it may be. Gosh, how's that going to make you feel? Imagine if you had a best friend that you're living with every day and they're always saying this stuff. They're always nagging at you, saying this stuff that you suck. You're not good enough. You'll never have that person, that dream, that goal. It's just not for you. You're going to feel depressed, right? You're going to feel sad. You're going to feel unmotivated. You're going to be angry at life. Why is this happening to me? So, how are we then going to take action over time when we constantly feel this way? Right? Either it's going to motivate us to go within and find this, which the problem is, though, is that we're not taught this in society, right? This is stuff that I had to learn. Luckily, I did the inner work and I attracted this stuff into my life, this knowledge, so that I can teach and help other people with it. But like, we're not taught this in society, right? I was always taught I was the way I was and I was stuck and I can't change and I just am the way I am. Well, that sucks, right? That's so disempowering. That just makes you feel like whatever you were served when you were, a young kid going through high school is what you're going to get for the rest of your life. And a lot of us do get stuck like that. So I hope this opens us up to realize that we are so much, so much, so much more, so much more. So how do you think we're going to take action though, if we feel this way all the time? Well, I'll tell you, when I'm sad, depressed, and I'm not motivated, I'm not going to want to do anything. So I'm going to be a couch potato, right? So we're going to skip. We're going to quit. And then what kind of results are we going to get in our lives then? Oh, sorry, that's going to be a sad face. None, right? It's going to reaffirm that same old belief that you're just not good enough. So that's where you come in and you play your role is number one, realizing that you are the observer. You are not your thoughts. Okay. This is the sky, which is you. And then this is a cloud, which is the belief of not good enough. What's happening is that this cloud, right, we get zoomed into this and it becomes our storyline. And we attract all this into our lives, and we're just walking on this storyline, and we're just attracting all this stuff of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I can't do this. We're becoming a magnet for it because that's our core belief, and that's influencing how we overall feel, right? And that's our frequency. And like attracts like with physics. So we will attract others that are on that same level. This is why a lot of people who grow up in a household of abusive people or whatever it may be often tend to find that in their relationships in the future. Okay, that's very sad, but it's very true. We often kind of repeat the same things over and over in our lives. The same stuff kind of keeps happening over and over again. It's all because of this here. And I want you to just take a second and reflect back on your life, maybe someone in your life, your friends, or you saw people who kind of have gone through this stuff, or you kind of see how it plays out in their lives. Right? I'm unlucky. Nothing ever happens good for me. And then see how their lives kind of play out. Right? And remember, the brain will literally filter it out as well. And that's what the brain will do. So how do we put all this together, right? So we just gone through just a quick rollback, right? So I talked to you about what alignment is, okay? Getting in alignment with your natural self. Then we talked about manifesting, how manifesting works, the law of attraction, how physics works. We talked about that. I didn't dive into the quantum field today, which is on my free course. If you guys want that, you can message me on Instagram at coach.hayward, and you can get the free course. And that will teach it a little more deeper. But we talked about the manifesting, how it works. And we talked about the thoughts and the belief system and our overall frequency and how that works as a person. So how we attract things into our lives. And then we talked about our belief system, neuroscience, how we can reprogram and transform ourselves. Okay. So what is next? Right now, where do we go from here? How do we keep putting all this together? Well, let's talk about it. So let's say what feels whole and complete to you is I want to lose 20 pounds. I want this this new job of helping dogs or kids, or maybe it's a business or whatever it may be. I would love to have in my life more. I want to do art, maybe, whatever it may be. Okay, so this is your natural, authentic self. These are your goals and desires, whatever. Okay, and then we've got the alignment. Okay, so this is where you want to go. All right. Well, this version of you, which we'll dive into a second, is on a certain set frequency, right? They're on that certain set frequency. This is your number one job, okay? This is your number one job, is you need to get onto that frequency so you can start attracting that into your life. Because when you get yourself onto that frequency, naturally that will come into your life. This is where a lot of people go wrong. They think, you're telling me I can just manifest by just thinking about what I want? No. No. Thinking is only 1/3 of the process, if not 1/4 or 5th or 6th or 7th. There's more to it, but let me explain, okay? Because the work, the action will not feel like work. It will feel like flow when you get into alignment with this. And here's what I mean is, so this version of you, okay? So this is, let's say 2.0 you. They're the ones who are down the 20 pounds. They got the six pack. They're being the leader, the role model at work. They're got the new position at their work. They have a new shelter for dogs, whatever it may be. They're doing art. They're feeling confident. They have the partner of their dreams. What they're doing is they're on a different set frequency, and they're attracting that into their lives. Okay. So you will say 1.0. You have your certain set frequency. So let's say yours right now is shame. Right? You feel shame on yourself because you're beating yourself up, because you keep failing, you're struggling, and you just feel so ashamed. Okay? And this frequency up here, they're attacked into joy. Okay? So joy, and that's what's kind of attracting into their lives. So this is how it works. Okay? Is when you're ready to change, what you want to do is you want to start to think and feel as this version of you. So here's what I would suggest. Number one is you got to do the rewiring. Okay. So when it comes to the rewiring, this is where it's going to get a little complicated as we go. So when it comes to the rewiring, this is where you got to change your core thoughts plus emotions. So Joe Dispenza teaches this a lot. And this is through neuroscience, right? So neuroscience shows through neuroplasticity. So this is where you can get into a meditative state. You can change your brain waves, right? You get into the subconscious mind. You start to rewire. New neurons that fire together will start to wire together. So new thoughts plus emotions will start to change that identity. And then what I would suggest is every day as well, you act based off who you want to become. Okay? And then 3 is conscious. I hope I wrote that right. Conscious consistency. So keep showing up, keep taking action this way. Okay, let go of the expectation, the result. Just focus on becoming. Okay, think and feel and act as the person that you want to be now. Now, over time, as you do this, what is going to be the outcome is that you are going to start to transform yourself. You are going to start to rise, ascend on the frequency chart. Okay, so your dominant frequencies are going to start shifting. You're going to start ascending. You're going to start attracting better things in your life. How? Because you're thinking and feeling differently, right? So therefore, you're going to start acting differently and you start getting different results. Now, this is where resistance is going to pop up. Okay? And this is where you get to work through. So this is the magical key. And mind you, you can speed track your way through this if you want. Instead of doing this, you can just dive right into the core beliefs as well. Kind of what I help my clients do. But this is where the good stuff comes up, okay? Because let's say you're getting into alignment. So this is who you want to be. So you're doing that now. You're getting into alignment as them. Awesome. Well, as you're ascending, as you're getting into alignment, as you're chasing this goal, what's going to pop up? The old self is going to pop up. And this is resistance. So this is your old self. This is the old frequency that you've been off of at 1.0 of shame, right? And basically what this resistance is old blocks that are no longer in alignment with who you want to be and become. This is a super important part because this is where most people get caught up because they believe they're the story and not the author. So they identify with these pains and struggles, right? So I'm not good enough. I suck, whatever it may be. I can't do this. When we hit these blockages, I'm feeling pain, or we unconsciously self-sabotage just for another training, because this goes really, really deep. But this stuff will pop up. Now, we got to remember that we're the observer of our lives. We're not our thoughts. We're not this stuff. We're so much more. What that means is that when you start having this stuff pop up, right? So let's say the resistance that pops up is you're trying to stay consistent, and then here we'll go to another slide. So let's say the resistance. So this is your alignment flow. The resistance that pops up in your life is a limiting belief. Now, how do we find that limiting belief? Well, let's go through it. Let's say this resistance overall. So we'll say this resistance here is you found yourself snacking at night. Okay? So this is the action. And the feeling that it gives you is shame, sadness. Okay? So the feeling is shame and sadness from doing this. We feel guilty. We feel bad about it, right? And so we ask ourselves, what must I believe to be true in order to act this way, or in order to act this way, even though it's not in alignment with who I want to become? Well, I must believe that I'm not good enough. Or you can ask yourself, what must I believe to be true to be feeling this way? What must I believe to be true about myself in order to be feeling this way? Or what must I believe to be true about myself in order to act this way, even though it's not in alignment with who I want to become? Well, I must be acting that way because I must believe that I probably can't change, right? We'll use that one. Can't change. Okay, well, this is where we got to say, is this rooted in truth? Is this rooted in truth? Is this universally true? Is it universally true that you cannot change? No. So what I mean by that is, like, when you were born into this earth, did everyone say literally like you'll never change ever again? Everyone agrees upon it? No. Right? There's no actual truth to it. So what this means is that somewhere's down the lifeline of your life from day one to wherever you are now, right? This limiting belief that you can't change was programmed into you, and then it started reproducing your life moving forwards. And it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and worse and worse and worse. But we recognize now that's not true. So we don't need to keep playing that story. So what must be true is that I am always changing. And that's true. You are always changing. Like it or not, you are always, always, always changing. Okay? Always, 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 always changing. You're never doing the exact same, specifically same thing. Right? You're always changing and evolving. So that's the new empowering belief. I'm always changing. Okay, how do you think you're going to start feeling then, right? And acting. Well, it doesn't make sense for me to keep snacking at night because it's not ruining anything anymore, right? I was only snacking at night because I just had a core belief that I just can't change. So what's the point? But I recognize that now, so I don't need to do that. Now, let's say if we still kept doing it, right? If we still kept doing this, even though we uncovered the limiting belief, it shows that there's still a lingering fear because the brain's holding on tightly. It's saying, hey, we're going to still do this because this is the easiest way to go or the best thing for me. That's the brain's way of thinking it, of doing it. So what we can ask then is like, now that I know this is not rooted in any truth and it's not in alignment with where I want to go, what must I be scared of to still act this way? Or what would I still have to believe about myself to still act this way? And let's say then the fear is change, right? I'm scared of change. Why would I be scared of change if I know that I'm always changing? What must I believe to be true about change to be scared of it? That if I change, maybe people won't accept me. And then we can keep working through it. But what we always realize is that if it's not going to be grounded in truth. If it's coming from a fear or a limiting belief, and I say limiting belief as in anything that makes you feel constricted and not expansive, that's a limiting belief. Anything that kind of makes you feel constricted, that's a limiting belief. Okay? So then what happens is that when we look back on the chart to alignment, hope I'm not losing y'all. This is we're going deep here today. So if we look back on the chart, now this is no longer, right? This is no longer. So we can get back into flow and alignment with who we want to become. Okay? So this is what I call old anchors. These are old anchors holding on to the 1.0 version of ourselves. And remember, where suffering comes in is when we hold on to this. We hold on to these anchors and we suffer because we can't accept it, right? We're attached to it maybe. We're still holding on to it in some sort of way. Okay, we're still attached or connected to it through either maybe it's a fear or a belief, right? Or we're putting our trust into lack rather than trusting that it's all going to work out for us, right? Maybe we have a tendency to try to control, whatever it may be. And that's where we get caught up and we start suffering, right? But as we work through all of these limiting beliefs and these blocks, as we work through those and we get rid of them, right? As we keep doing that, we just keep getting more and more in alignment with who we actually want to become. And then next thing you know, who we want to become is who we are. Because there's no more blocks, right? It's just who you are. So now you're completely in that flow. What you want wants you. It's just happening easy. Actions are falling into place naturally. You're enjoying the process. You're thinking, feeling that way. You're believing you're that way. Now you're getting unstoppable. Now nothing is in the way of you and what you want. maybe a little bit of time, but that's it. What you want is right there around the corner. And that is the training for today. I'll stop it there, team, because there's so much more that we can dive into. But that is where I will leave it at for today. And that is a training on alignment, how it works, and kind of connecting some of the dots together. Now, if you did like this training, please subscribe. If you do want some one-to-one coaching, there's also going to be a link below as well that you can apply. And if you have any questions as well, always comment down below. I would love to hear what your opinions are, what stuck out, where you're confused, and how else I can help you out. But I hope you have an amazing day. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.